You're watching The Edward Fowler Show. Now, here's your host, Edward Fowler.
Good evening. Welcome to the show here on Hump Day, Wednesday, April the 15th. And I am now hoping that I am actually live on the correct stream. I'm hoping that is correct. Yes, we are. Hooray. Welcome to the show. This guest, he has not been on the show for over 3 years. We'll go back to January of 2023 when this guest came on. But he's back for the first time in 3 years. Please welcome back to the show, Ben the Bane Davis. Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's good to be back, Edward. I apologize. I didn't realize it'd been 3 years, man. I should have come back sooner. That's on me, but it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
All good, Ben. As we were saying off air for 2 minutes, but I was just saying, where the hell you been? Because I watched back our last conversation. At the end, you say, "Well, I'll come back anytime you like," and I've been trying to reach out several times to you, as you know, throughout the years, and something's always been coming up. This is fair enough because you are a busy man in demand.
Anytime turns into sometimes, and unfortunately, conditions get layered on top of it. And to your point, Edward, I try and keep the plate packed. I try and keep the schedule sizzling, and so that does push things to the side. But thankfully, we found some time this Wednesday.
Absolutely. Of course, I messaged you a couple of days ago, and then I kind of spammed you, so I do apologize for
You
that.
messaged me too much, Edward. You got to tone that back.
Well, that's the beauty. People say I'm persistent. Yeah.
That is a word. That is one word.
So yeah, apologies for that. 'Cause I did thought when I announced yesterday, and then of course you saw it obviously, and I thought, well, maybe he's going to ghost me. I'm not coming.
No.
You are here, so it's good. But let's talk firstly about this past weekend. Of course, you were at that excellent promotion. This was streaming live on YouTube worldwide, where it was Team America versus, I think it was Team Mexico. I could be wrong on that, but it was a fantastic event. Some fantastic fighters, especially the main event, lived up to the hype. How did you get yourself involved? I know you shared a post earlier on this afternoon about you were, I guess they were looking for potential announcers and hosts a couple of years ago, and your name was mentioned a few times by many fans who like your work, rightly so. But you said at that time that you were right at not getting that opportunity because you felt you weren't ready for that, compared to this past weekend where you had another opportunity which came towards you, and of course you accepted it, and I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you, man. Firstly, I really appreciate your engagement, during fight weekend on fight night. That was great to see. And yeah, it was a weird story. I think a couple years ago, back in 2022, I was much greener than I am now. Not to age myself too drastically because I'm only 26, but at that point in time, like I was so eager to do everything and anything. And I think at that frame of where my life was and career, I didn't think that I couldn't do anything. There was this level of like, I just want it all at once. And that wasn't maybe the best approach. And that led to frustration at the time. When that post was put out by Campbell McLaren, who's always, on social media stirring the pot and trying to, engage the fans, he asked a question. And I think it was something like September, October 2022, or maybe over the summer, who knows. But basically, who's a commentator you guys would want to see in Combate Global? And like you mentioned, a good amount of people had replied and said my name. And I remember that week being so exciting because I thought, oh man, look at all the people that are saying, hire Ben. And so we briefly connected, and it never led to anything at that point in time, outside of, a good relationship with Campbell, and a sustained connection that I had with him that persisted, but it never resulted in that moment of getting an opportunity. And I was confused. I was like, what? So many people said. And that was a product of immaturity and ignorance, right? Just because a couple people reply to a post doesn't mean you're going to get a job. It's a little bit more complex than that, as I've learned over the last 4 years. And I've had such an honor to work with a lot of organizations and refine my play-by-play style and approach. And, at that point in 2022, I commentated maybe three or four live combat sport events. And there was a huge lack of experience at a decent level. Whereas now, I've led pay-per-views on DAZN. I've worked multiple UFC Fight Pass gigs. I've gone around the world broadcasting, and have had such a pleasure in crafting and refining my skills that when this opportunity did come back around, I was coming back from a show in Yekaterinburg, Russia. We did a karate combat there. I was in the Istanbul airport, and Campbell calls and he says, we've got a new idea that we're trying, and our show's, in April. We'd love to maybe have you come in and try it out for it. And I thought, what a full circle type of thing, that's so unique. And I embraced it with both arms and basically told Campbell, like, dude, whatever needs to happen to get me in that booth, whether it's flexibility on rates or whatever else, like just let me have that because, I'd kind of forgotten about that post in 2022 until Jed Goodman on Twitter had kind of quote tweeted it and said, 4 years later, now Ben DeBane's commentating. I totally forgot about that. And so it was very interesting to go back and see, at that time, 4 years ago, the support in that chapter and reminisce a little bit. And it added such an extra layer to this past weekend. And, the production value was great. Like you saw, I mean, it was a really unique studio that Combate Global is working out of. And the talent that they had, it was, there was obviously some difficulties with the card as mixed martial arts is, there's going to be fights that fall off. And unfortunately, we lost a couple critical ones, but we still had a nice four-fight card and a good platform for some emerging talent, some up-and-comers to get a bright light upon themselves. And it just was and then working alongside Alex Wendling, Beatrice, Jade Ortega, and our Spanish broadcasting crew, it just felt like a cool opportunity. And I was honored. And so, we got one more on April 25th. And, who knows what the future could look like with myself and Campbell's crew. I'd love to come on in a deeper fashion, but yeah, no, it was a 4 years in the making show, and if it's just these two events this April, then I'll still be deeply humbled and grateful for the chance.
Absolutely. And again, it was a fantastic broadcast. I don't usually watch live MMA at that time in the morning because it was I think it was at 10 o'clock Eastern time. It was about 7 o'clock on the West Coast for you at the time when it went live.
I want to say it was probably 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. 'Cause it was about 3 o'clock in the morning for me. And
Jeez.
I was awake. I was wide awake, as you know. So, but I watched it. I watched it live. The I didn't know how long it was going to be on for, but I just thought I watched it and it was very impressive. I enjoyed what I saw. I thought yourself and your fellow commentators had a lot of banter as well. I mean, you had a great chemistry for two people you may not really, speak to a lot or be
No,
able
yeah,
to.
not have a lot of familiarity with, right? Like
Yeah.
I met Jaden, I think, the day before, 2 days prior. I've worked with Alex several times, and she's
Hmm.
fantastic. I think the world of her. But that was one of the nuances of that broadcast is we had to kill a lot of time, like you saw. Like there were many instances where they'd throw us back on camera and we'd have to
Yes.
burn and dance until the next fight because what happened was, the Spanish broadcast, they had commercial breaks and some sponsorships that they were able to kind of lace in, and then that gives them 2 minutes off. We didn't have that, but because we were running concurrently, we that just meant we'd have to go back on camera and burn that time during every single one of those commercial breaks, which led to, because again, there was only four fights on the card.
Yeah.
A lot of those kids were emerging guys, and so there just wasn't maybe as much to dig into from a storyline sense,
Mm.
which for me as a play-by-play commentator meant I had to really spin things around and ask some off the wall questions and cue my analysts and color commentators up in unique ways to fill that space. And that's a challenge I don't think I would have been able to do 4 years ago. Like if you take 2022 Ben and you put him in that broadcast, I think that it would have been a really clanky viewing experience. And I'm not pretending that this weekend was stellar or perfect. I think that there were a good amount of flaws on my end and did what I could, but it wasn't perfect. But I think I did much better this weekend with the experience that I have and a lot of other past broadcasts having tech issues and other problems associated that, they just crystallize your ability to to dance
Yeah.
and allow the show to not fall apart, right? Not that it was in ever near that territory, but I genuinely think if you threw 4 years ago Ben in there, it would have been a big issue. So
But I mean, it's a fantastic, broadcast, and I did feel like, I did wonder what was going on there when you guys were constantly, I guess, on the
constantly
air.
on air, yeah.
Yeah, but it was great because I mean, you guys didn't lose any energy or any
Yeah.
you weren't like thinking, oh, how are we gonna fill this time up? You all kept talking and
It was
I mean,
seamless. We kept it
yeah,
seamless.
exactly. Yeah, it was like it was meant to happen in that way, and it was fantastic. I mean, it brilliant work for you. And like I said on social media afterwards about the production and everyone working behind the scenes as well. Did a top job. And it's great to see this type of promotion getting more eyes on it, and hopefully they will continue bringing these type of events on YouTube for the wider audience outside of
Yeah.
the Spanish audience, obviously, and of course that is of course Combate Global, who, funny enough, actually, when I reached out to you about getting you back on the show this week, followed me on X. So 'cause I followed
Oh,
them.
they did.
I wasn't expecting
There
them
you
to
go.
follow me back or nothing like that, but for some reason they did. I don't know why, but thank you, I guess, for them. But I mean, yeah,
They're an engaged show, man. They're an engaged promotion. That's what you
absolutely.
could say, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm quite an engaging person from Britain at 3 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, I've nothing else better to do at 3 a.m. Funny enough, that I was awake from 3 o'clock this morning as well. So there you go. That's mad hours for you. Yeah, of course. Leading up to that event as well, because you mentioned about you guys haven't always worked together, and I mean, was that quite hard? I know you've done 3-man booths probably before and 2-man booths. Do you have a particular preference, or do you not mind how many people are
I think
in the
it
booth at one time?
I'll tell you what I mind is when it gets to four people in the
Okay.
booth. That's when it becomes a fucking problem. And there's been several shows where, the promoter just gets happy-go-lucky with sticking people in the commentating chairs and just assuming that it'll go well. And, as a play-by-play commentator, trying to pull those strings and balance it all and make sure that, things aren't falling and smashing on the ground. When you throw three people plus me in there, that job becomes insanely hard. But it just usually just depends on the person. Like for instance, me and David Evans over at APFC, it's largely always been a two-man booth with just me and him. And it's because I think him and I have such good chemistry that there's really not much dead air, and he's able to fill so many boxes on the color commentator and analyst spectrum that there isn't really a need. And I enjoy that. But at the same time, I loved when it was there was a couple APFC shows where David wasn't free, and we had Jason Anik and Bilal Muhammad. And I really loved playing around with that because, Jason, coming from more of just a fan background, in a sense, he doesn't train. Well, it was involved in theater years prior, but, wasn't like broadcast calibrated. And so there was such a unique way to utilize him in a booth. And then with Bilal Muhammad, expert grappling analysis, any wrestling sequence, he would provide perfect insight upon both how to defend, how to advance the position. And so it just depends on the people and what they bring to the booth. If there's one person who's excellent and covers all the boxes, great. If it's two people and there's something cool to play with, then perfect. Like another example I can throw out is Robin Black. Like Robin Black is he might be in my top two, top three favorite people to commentate with, because what Robin does so beautifully is he'll attack things in the most unexpected way and flips the table on its head and goes, well, what if we look at this in reverse? What if we look at this upside down? And a huge focus and priority for him is when he goes to these shows to basically, his standpoint is, I could do the bare minimum analyst work and repeat the same tired lines and go through the same usual steps and wear those shoes that everyone wears. But that's not what he's curious about. And I think that level of psychology he plays into it, the philosophy that he ties into his analysis, it's just fantastic, and it's fun to work with as a play-by-play commentator. It's interesting to me, and it allows us to play off each other in a way that I can't really with a lot of other people. And so, that's why, for instance, Robin is someone, and he's a very polarizing guy. Like if you look at any of the comment sections from broadcasts he's worked, it's almost a 50-50 split between people that either love him or hate his style. And it always hurts when I see people that are critical, or more negative, because it's like they have to appreciate what he does, in my opinion. I think the guy is such an unsung hero in the booth, and maybe the flavor's not for everyone, then that's fine. My flavor's not for everyone. I get that. But my God, he is one of one. So to answer your question in a long form manner, it isn't about the number, it's about the quality of it. And if it's two people, if it's three people, couldn't care less. I'll be able to work with it. I just hope that it's someone that I find interesting to work alongside.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, really, I it because I feel like in the 90s and 2000s, I feel like there was many two-man booths, and then all of a sudden in like the 2010s, we just had this sudden urge of three-man booths, for instance. And I just feel like I always feel like the two-man booth is better because there's enough voices, between the play-by-play and the color. I mean, when you're adding more dynamics to it, three-man booth or even four-man booth, it gets a bit more difficult to get your word in because you're gonna butt in and you might be interrupting somebody else's sentence or whatever. So I always feel like the two-man booth is the safest to go. But I want to get your
Yeah.
opinion on that. That's all.
I think that yeah, I think it boils down to the trust that the commentators have in the booth. I think for me as a play-by-play commentator, one of the most important rules is to keep people in their
Mm,
lanes. And if someone is trusting of me, and what I mean by that is they know that I'm going to give their time to shine. They will get their time to talk. Then they're not going to butt in. Then they're not going to be overlapping each other's audio, and there's going to be this fighting for the spotlight. If they trust the play-by-play commentator, then they know he's going to cue me up. He's going to tee it to me. I'm the quarterback. He's my wide receiver. I'll be throwing it to you all night long. But I think to your point, you have a lot of that dysfunction in booths where the trust isn't there, whether that's a product of it's not being built due to a lack of chemistry or a lack of existing experience between the broadcasters, or a lack of maybe ability and competence. That's where I've always seen the problems grow out of, is a lack of trust.
mm.
And so that's why it's always important for me to just reinforce that. And I've worked in booths where it's not there. And I've worked in booths with some people, some high level mixed martial artists that have, competed for UFC titles, where it just isn't there, and the chemistry can't be formed. And even after me reminding and saying, hey, please, just let me do my thing and it'll help us all, and help me help you in a sense, it just isn't there. And that's not, a reflection on them necessarily, right? Maybe it's more of, if they had a different play-by-play commentator, it would click. But it's tough, right? But at the same time, I think, to answer your question, it just all roots back to trust.
Yeah.
And why it went from two-person to three-person booths, I'm not sure. I mean, two-person booths are cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of organizations, just having two morons in the commentating booth is a little bit more fiscally responsible. But the merrier sometimes.
The mother barrier. Well, I will get into it in like a while, but then I'll move on a little bit. So, of course, leading up to the event, this past Saturday night, at Combate Global, shout out to them again. It was an interesting reel you posted, and I think you probably got a lot of heat for it. I think from the wrestling world, because you mentioned that pro wrestling is fake, as you said in that little whatever that was meant to be. But I mean, did you get a lot of heat from people within the wrestling business saying that this is giving you a lot of dogging and want you to get into their world, basically, and say, come to our world, we will show you how not fake it is?
No, I didn't get any heat. There was no wrestlers that were disturbed by it. I did add in the
I
reply
know you did.
section on Instagram.
Yeah,
I do love pro wrestling.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of expected maybe some more noise, right? I thought that that could draw a little bit
Well,
of
I thought it would have done, yeah.
displeasure. Yeah, but I didn't, maybe I'm just too charming, Ed. I'm just too charming, man. Even when I'm shitting on pro wrestling, they're like,
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah.
No, I love pro wrestling. I grew up wanting to be a pro wrestler. I then hit puberty and realized it's certainly not in my not in my biological accessibility. And I think from now, a broadcasting standpoint, doing play-by-play in pro wrestling would be deeply fun. I was able to, thanks to Brett Lauderdale, the owner of Game Changer Wrestling, went to a GCW show and sat with him and watched it all unfold. And the broadcasting at like the regional pro wrestling level it's cool, but it's also a lot of work. I mean, GCW does fucking upwards of I think like 60 or 70 shows a year. And so if there was an opportunity to get involved to do play-by-play, I think they would probably want it to be an all or nothing type thing.
Okay.
And I just don't know if that would work. It'd be nice to do like a TNA or a House of Glory or a GCW broadcast here and there, but and that's all networking based, and my network does not extend too deep into the pro wrestling world.
Well,
But
you just mentioned a moment ago that you don't have the physique for it, but then again, you're getting into cages and in boxing rings and having fights. So technically, you do have the ability to get into a wrestling ring and have a match.
I have the stupidity maybe to have done all the fights I've done, but I still don't have the physique for it.
Well,
It's not like I look good when I'm fighting, man. It's
wow.
not like they say, "Oh man, look at his abs when he's throwing that combo." No, I think it would be really fun. I think I can sell pro wrestling moves way better than the average person. That's one thing because yeah, my theater background, there's some stage fighting in the past, and an uncanny ability to ragdoll myself onto a canvas and make it look realistic. I think that's like Dolph. I love Dolph Ziggler when I was growing up because he would oversell things to an extreme, and like you just couldn't look away when he would get hit with a finishing move. And I feel I could absolutely do things in that nature. But then it's like I'm setting myself up to be a punching bag in some wrestling ring, which again, I'd be more than happy to. So I don't know. Maybe there's a world in which things warp around and connect, and I can do it. But at this current juncture, there's nothing in the near future to let me get RKO'd over and over on some,
Okay.
regional scene
Okay.
canvas.
Okay. Well, I mean, when I announced it yesterday on the show, etc., the first person to come up to me and say, "Oh, it's Ben from Misfits, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yes,
Yeah.
exactly." So people know you from that, and you are this global icon, I guess now, in a sense.
No, no.
You don't agree with that now?
Um, no, man. I'm just a guy from Phoenix, Arizona. I don't think there's a global icon attached to my name. I mean, if I was like, maybe if I had won all the fights that I've been in, then the brand would have really exploded, and maybe at that point, right, I'd get an ego. But when you when you've been handed as much humble pie as me, right, you're never gonna go around saying I'm a global icon.
Well, the
That
reason,
means a lot, though. I've tried to build myself into a lot of places, and with
yeah.
that comes some familiarity, and that's deeply meaningful. And always appreciated. But no, I'm never above anybody.
Well, the reason I say global icon is because you've been, as you said before, traveling around the world, getting these great opportunities, sitting next to KSI, for instance, and being on DAZN and being on all these different networks and different shows and promotions. That just shows you how in demand you are. So technically, you are a global icon because you all keep popping up on everyone's screens everywhere.
I can't get away from me, man. I'll
Exactly.
let you say it, Ed. I'll let you say it.
But I mean, it's been interesting, all these great opportunities, and I feel like, in the last, 3 years at least since I last spoke to you, I feel you have grown, and when you first came on this show, you did do a lot of swearing on this channel. When you first came on, I remember asking you about, do you do this in the box when you're live, on a broadcast, and you were like, no, I'm very respectful. That'd be a way to lose opportunities. But on here, on this
Mhm.
episode so far, you've not done a lot of swearing compared to the last time you were on here, so you definitely have grown in in the sense of that as well. In the last time you've grown, but obviously, as you get older as well, you get more wiser, you get more knowledgeable, you get more.
Of
I don't know.
course.
You get life,
There's
that's
just
pretty.
seasoning, man. Like wine, right? Like wine, you get a little bit more seasoned.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I don't swear or scream as much these days. I've left that a little bit more. That's 20. That's that all peaked out at like 2024, Ben. You know what I mean? That's
Mm.
really where we got away from the screaming in Zoom interviews.
Fair enough, but at least you can, go back and critique yourself if needed, and think, oh my word, what was I doing back then, and whatever. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you're always critiquing yourself. Which is great to see. Again, we are all our worst critiques, so maybe it's not the best to do that. Maybe you should get advice from other people, as I'm sure you do. You also seem to have a good support network around you as well, as I'm hoping is still very strong in 2026.
Yes. No, I mean, in terms of family, friends, I've got a really great foundation here in Phoenix and a good personal life that can ground me and keep me a little bit more closer to the earth. I think that if maybe I didn't have that, I'd be more inclined and compelled to go live a lifestyle that would possibly blow some more smoke up my ass and inflate my head out of this stratosphere, right? But it's just not, it's hard, like it's hard to get too inflated and become too arrogant when, a lot of my days now are spent either, in school doing my master's program or like sweeping and cleaning up after my dogs, like very normal activities.
Fair enough.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, in the last 3 years, I think the big balance for me has been reducing some of like the extremes and still maintaining those creative flares and those sparks. And certainly on air, like during broadcasts, I think you can see me animate and amplify some of those on air pillars,
Mm.
but trimming it, but at the same time, like not losing it completely. I think that's the problem for me at the moment is finding a healthy medium where I'm still very much myself and still that type of maybe interesting type of individual, but also not too far across the line that I won't have an opportunity with like, to get involved deeper at DAZN or get a CBS Sports gig or a TNT gig or an ESPN opportunity. Like that's kind of the balance for me is like, how can I strike that medium? And Ed, that's still something we're working on, right? So that's an ongoing evolution.
Funny you not mentioned Netflix in that conversation there, because 3 years ago when we last spoke, Netflix wasn't even the question about doing live sports, and now all of a sudden they're in the live business,
Yeah.
the live sports business, doing a lot of boxing. So I'm guessing at some point they'll be coming to knock on your door and getting you to appear on Netflix. So I'm guessing you'll be open to that opportunity as well. So it means that'll be a global opportunity for you to, make yourself the global icon you are, because you should, if you do go on Netflix at some point, you should introduce yourself as the global icon Ben the Bane Davis.
Again, I'm not going to be introducing myself as a global icon, but to your point, yes, Netflix. I forgot about them a moment ago. They're crushing it in the premium live event space. They're obviously making that vehicle for themselves. And, MVP and what Nikisa Padarian and Jake Paul have done as well is excellent. I'm a huge fan of what they're doing, and especially with women's boxing, especially with those that are, bullied or discriminated in their youth, providing them a platform through boxing to have an outlet. Like I've got nothing but respect and admiration. Obviously I'm a Misfits boxing guy. That's kind of been the homegrown, base for me. But I don't think that they would mind if there was some, interplay possibly between, so if Netflix called, and I would assume that meant MVP called as well, then it'd be an interesting conversation.
Well, we look forward to this. We look forward to seeing you popping up on Netflix at some point. Could be on the baseball, could be on boxing, as you say, or any other MMA, because they got some MMA coming up as well.
Could be a reality TV show, man. Let's not count that out, right? Netflix has got a couple of those.
Yeah. We will get your predictions on the MMA in a couple of minutes. But back to, I'm gonna go backwards a little bit, just to go back, because yes, you have fought in different places. So is that still on your bucket list to continue to do that? Is that maybe your endpoint goal is, to get your foot in the door as a commentator and a host? But your main goal is to become a a well-known fighter. Is that your goal here?
No, no.
Oh, right, okay.
I would say maybe in the reverse. I think that the fighting has been a vehicle to break into some rooms that I otherwise wouldn't have access towards. And it's good content. It's a very unique thing that not a lot of people do, and the results have not been great for most of them. But again, like I encourage people to understand that there's a greater, more layered reason for me fighting than just I'm gonna go fight and winning is all that matters. Like the results a little less important. I think that for me, it's about accessing those types of key decision makers at organizations and proving that I'll walk it as much as I talk it. I'll bleed for this. I'll put some sweat in for this. And, I think more so than the average fan or pundit or commentator, like, I think that there's a healthy amount of respect that I've been able to at least garner through the bare knuckle boxing experience, most notably the Anderson Silva's kid fight, the Karate Combat one. Like, I don't see other people that are trying to do what I do go and uncover those stones and do those side quests. It's easy to talk about it. It's significantly harder to do it. And so my respect for the athletes has changed. I hope that goes both ways. But no, I would like to fight some more. I mean, I'm only 26. I think that there's still a bit of tread on those tires. I did about 7 months of boxing training last year with BJ Flores, who's an incredibly notable coach, a really fantastic mentor for me. And, we basically reset my boxing. We took it all the way back to square one. He erased everything that I had learned up until that point, the good, the bad, the otherwise. And we were just kind of in the process of rebuilding. And we were getting to a nice spot, Ed. Like I was looking clean. My sparring was looking really good. I felt awesome. In fact, I was telling him and asking Mams for a fight. I was saying, "Hey, can we line something up on Misfits? Because I'm in different form." And then I think it was like late September of last year, I busted my wrist and my elbow during some hard sparring, and that kind of set everything back drastically to the point where I couldn't even go do CrossFit. Absolutely couldn't box or put any like pressure on it, and that kind of that flipped off the switch in terms of my interest in fighting for a bit because I'm like, look, that was months of paying
Mm.
to work alongside BJ with no real return. And at this stage in my career, I can't really afford to just make those types of investments when one little injury could completely erase the possibility of something. So, we'll see. BJ's been in Dubai coaching Warren Spencer and Tristan Ham, who just picked up some big wins on Fight Gecko. When he gets back, I think we'll have a conversation and see. I wouldn't mind doing something like that, going and knocking out some moron in Fight Gecko or, Crypto Fight Night. I think there's some losers I can probably beat up there, some easy trash cans to get a highlight. And then we'll talk about another Misfits return. But again, like it's always been a side thing, a third, fourth, fifth line item priority. Like the first thing has always been my broadcasting career. That's bar none what's most important to me.
Okay. I just want to make sure because people might be asking or might be thinking what does this mean? So thank you most for the answers to that question. And when you go to these bigger events, when you got like the KSIs and the DAZNs, and all these other fantastic organizations, when they bring you in and you get to interact with those people and all the owners and whatever, do you get many people to say, "Oh, I know you from your fight you had this past weekend," or "I saw you get beat up or knocked out or whatever in this place"? Is that what they come up to you as, or did they know you from the broadcasting side of things?
It's a mix of both. I think people primarily know me from a lot of the broadcasting, hosting, play-by-play stuff. But I do get frequently asked, "Am I fighting again?" There's a lot of people that will ask, "Are you going to go do that again?" But it's not. I think sometimes it's not in like, "Oh man, we're excited to see you back." I think they ask that in like a, "Are you going to fight again? Like, can you not?" type of tone. But yeah, no. I mean, I do get asked about it. Decently enough to where. Whenever someone does say it to me, my brain is like, "Oh man, I gotta have this conversation again." But yeah, it comes up. It comes up.
Okay. Well, speaking about fighting, I know you just shared this on Instagram yesterday, so I took a copy of it. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I know you've been teasing it on your social media, X, for instance. But are we actually going to see this potential fight then between yourself and Chad Osho? Cinco coming up soon. I got the graphic on my screen anyway, so people can actually see it for themselves. But yeah,
of course. Yeah, man, I hope that this happens because Chad Ochocinco, who's a former NFL player, really great career inside the National Football League, has just been, dude, he's been banging pots and pans the last couple weeks. And I get that what's likely happened is his agent or his management team has just been plugging him into some MMA opportunities. They want some crossover between Chad's brand and the UFC's. I get it, man. I understand it. But the problem is when you go and check those PR boxes and you're just maybe doing a gig, but you're not really watching what you're saying, it gets irritating. And so for Chad Ochocinco to roll up to the UFC weigh-in show ahead of UFC 327 and slap a replica prop belt on his shoulder and proclaim, I'm gonna fight, give me Adesanya, give me some, great scraps, it just comes off as cheap and kind of lame. Right. And so I obviously made a comment. He wanted to clap back. And then I see him a couple days later roll out to Fury FC. He gets his own walkout, hops in the ring, gets the microphone, and just regurgitates the same talking points of, I want to fight, I want to fight. Well, if you want to fight so bad, Chad, I'm right here. And I don't see anyone else calling you out. I don't see anyone else actually trying to play this game alongside you, partially because no one cares. Because you're washed up, Chad. You're old. You're largely irrelevant. You're Shannon Sharp's water boy, biscuit boy, towel boy. I think that it's tough for, Robin to try and make noise when all people want to see is Batman. You know what I mean? So I think that's why Chad is having a little bit of insecurity burst out with this, recent string of media appearances. But, I'll disregard all that because Chad, I'm willing to play the game. I'll give you the height. I'll give you the weight. At the end of the day, it's not going to matter because you're a 45-year-old man who has not trained seriously and you don't have the cardio, you don't have the skills to beat me in any setting. If it's boxing, if it's mixed martial arts, if it's jujitsu, hell, even at a foot race at this point, Chad, I don't think you've got the wheels. So if there is a way to summon this matchup and make it happen in the summer or the fall, it'd be a nice side quest. Because, like I talked about, I like turning over these stones. And turning over Chad Ochocinco and choking him out within a round would be a heck of a side quest that I couldn't say no to. So, Chad, if you want to play, we could play, but you'll lose.
And if this does happen, where would it take place? I mean, I guess is it going to happen in America, in one of these big cities, or somewhere else?
You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it Madison Square Garden. Let's do it November UFC card, Madison Square Garden. Chad Ochocinco, you get your MMA fight. You get it in the Mecca, the home of combat sports, and it'll be the worst night of your life. It'll be the most devastating sequence that you've had. So that's where I'd prefer to do it. I could go international with it, but again, he's an NFL player. I don't know how that brand works outside of the States. And obviously myself, not a global icon, right? So we're playing off Chad's popularity.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You do have a good social media presence. I feel you've got over what, over
Yeah.
almost sixty
You, Ed,
thousand followers on X. You've got, I don't know how many on Instagram, and I've not looked, but
like 13.
you've got a lot. You've got lots. So you're quite big on social media compared to me. So I'm probably your opponent as well. He probably doesn't have a lot of following because you say he's irrelevant. He's 45. He is not with the modern day, with the world how it is now with all social media. Do you get people, on the internet or in person saying you need to turn it down a little bit? This might cost you an opportunity at this place or that place when you're, constantly, I guess, saying things on social media.
Or I think that back in the day, several years ago, there was a lot more um, maybe frustration at some of the posts I would make or jokes that I would toss out there on socials. And, texts I would receive communication from people being like, it's just not beneficial to cross that line or say these types of things or criticize this type of person. There's don't bite the hand that feeds you or the hand that could feed you, right? Mentality. And that's difficult in a couple of ways because, you want to have the freedom and liberty to just say what you want and opine about whatever. But yeah, the reality is like staying employed is the name of the game. And so being critical or negative of anything or anyone doesn't really pay you as much as working with those people could, right? So at the end of the day, I just don't understand what maybe some of those opinions get me. And that's something I've learned over the last handful of years because I would pop off and just be very like spontaneous with what I say and offer knee-jerk reactions to certain things and reply to all types of things. And it just, yeah, I have absolutely lost opportunities and been fired from jobs and have soured relationships through no fault of direct communication, but by virtue of splashback off of something I've posted. And that's, I think, again, something that you just learn when you grow up and mature a little bit is like, okay, well, we're not we're not able to just play around in the sandbox anymore. You got to get up, put the blazer on, adjust the tie, and grow the fuck up, right? So to your point, yeah, that's why you've seen me pull back and be a little bit more maybe careful, I think is the word, about the type of shit that I put out there. Still a lot of jokes. I mean, shit, I still make a ton of jokes. That has not changed, but they're just a little bit, toned down and diluted these days.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. And I'm sorry to hear about those opportunities which have been pulled from you or have not happened, and hopefully, and
Nothing to be sorry about. Nothing to be
well,
sorry about. It's all
well, I
that's because
mean,
that's me.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just hoping that bridges be closed, and all will be forgiven and be given a second opportunity, a second chance to make the wrong. That makes sense.
Some of them possibly, and boy, do I hope, right? Some of them probably not.
Well, never say
I'm
never.
always open. Yeah, never say never. Look, I'm always open to breaking, bread and smoothing things over. And I think at the end of the day, what's a very critical core that again, I think people misunderstand a little is most of what I try and do is just in the entertainment vein. And with jokes, it's a joke, right? It's supposed to be comedy. And not every joke is going to land. Not every joke is something that, you're going to find funny and sometimes could be found a little bit annoying or whatever else. But like at the end of the day, the core of that is a joke,
Mm.
right? So, you'd hope that people would be able to understand that, but we'll see. You can't look in the past, man. You can only keep your eyes facing the future.
Yes, and speaking about the future, what does that entail for yourself? Are you going to get revenge? Are you going to call out, for instance, let's see, Douglas Malo for taking you out on that social media
Mm.
clip? Are you going to get revenge on him? What is next for you if you don't get the opportunity to face, the former NFL player in a boxing or UFC or bare knuckle, whatever it may be? What's going to be next for you outside of broadcasting?
If I don't get the opportunity to fight Chad Ochocinco in 2026, the odds of me competing in anything are near zero. Again, it's something that has to be deeply interesting towards me, and I think that idea of facing him would check that box. But it's not at this moment with what I have on my plate. I'm not going to just go willy-nilly, right? So if it's not Chad, it's probably going to be nobody this year, and we'll have another year on the shelf.
Fair enough. What appearances have you got coming up then? You mentioned about going back to Combat Global on the 25th of April, which I'm assuming will be live on YouTube once again. I'm assuming, again, full information will be on the social media and websites, so do check them out. Oh, of course, social media, but apart from the 25th, where else can people find you or see you on?
It's a lot, man. So this weekend we've got a ADCC West Coast Trials on Flow Grappling. So make sure you get your Flow Sports subscription up to date. You'll see me commentating there. Weekend after that, like you mentioned, Combate Global back in Burbank, California for the Foos Gone Wild Foos Fighting Championship, which I'm very curious to see how that all plays out. It sounds like it's kind of going to be a no holds barred type of setting. And then week after that, I'll be in Philadelphia for Team Boxing League. So I'll be doing some work with TBL on May 2nd. And then I think I've got two other shows in May and then June, Misfits and a couple other shows. So we stay busy, man. I've got at least like two shows a month. That's kind of like the minimum I'm able to maintain is two shows a month. If I can get that to three or four or five, excellent. But yeah, that's sort of the look at the near future.
Fair enough. I have to mention as well, you were in Manchester about a month or two ago for an event, or you just came here and got another flight to somewhere else. But I did see the point of you coming to Manchester, going somewhere, maybe in Manchester, and then you were back in Manchester to fly back out again. How was your time in, I guess, your short time in Manchester a month or two ago?
It was tricky. I'm trying to remember. So I think it was end of February. I believe. Yeah, what was I think it was what Misfits or
Yeah,
no?
I think it was
What
because I
was
said
it?
to
I think it
you,
was.
I remember you then pictured yourself on the Zone TV in Manchester. You put the location in Manchester, England. But I do remember commenting to you saying, "Welcome back to the best city in the world."
Yeah, because I had okay, so here's what happened. I had a show in I think it was a show in Manchester. Then I had to fly all the way to California for an event, and then fly back to Liverpool for Total Combat,
Hmm.
and then fly to Orlando for a show, all in like a week span or something.
That was a lot of
Which
traveling.
was There was a lot of traveling, man. And what sucked is, and this, I get it, man. They've got budgets, but like they couldn't book me on American Airlines. So I didn't get any of my frequent flyer miles for all of that, which is that's the biggest frustration these days. I'm like, can we please book it on American? And they're like, no. And I'm like, damn it. But yeah, no, I mean, that one was especially a unique travel experience. Um, Look, I love going to the UK, man, and London, and I wish that it was easier to maybe pick up and move there, right? But no, that's the home away from home, Edward.
That's good. Because you did ask me as well if I was actually in England. I said, yeah, I am in England. But yeah, I am in the best city in the world, better than Phoenix, Arizona, Manchester, England. That's where it all happens. So we can't wait to see you back in Manchester, England. Hopefully later this year, perhaps.
Well, I think isn't the Tommy Fury Eddie Hall that's in Manchester in
It
June, correct?
is. Yes, it is.
Beautiful.
Yes, yes, it is. Are you going to
I'll
be
see
there?
you then.
Okay.
That'll be the next time, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing that fight week, but I'll be there.
Right, well, we look forward to seeing you in the greatest city in the world, Manchester, England, for that great bout. And any predictions for that, by the way? Let's get predictions now. So, are you a Eddie Hall fan or are you a Tommy Fury fan?
This isn't any knock on Tommy because he's a nice enough guy. To me, I can't really speak for him pulling out against Darren Till or his overall inactivity in a combat sports sense, but I would love to see Eddie Hall win. I think Eddie winning would be great for business. I think it would be hilarious. I think Tommy Fury winning wouldn't really do much. It's the expected outcome, and unfortunately, he's not a reliable enough guy in this scene to make much of, right? This truthfully, and this isn't a knock on, the matchmakers or anything, but like I think it's kind of a stupid waste of Eddie Hall because, if you give him a fight in Misfits and he wins his debut in big fashion, then that could set up a Tommy Fury fight where it's pretty expected him to come up short, right? But to have his debut against Tommy, where he'll in all likelihood lose a decision or gas out and lose by late TKO via exhaustion, it just doesn't seem like the best way to squeeze the juice, right? Or maximize that. I think there's so many options for Eddie Hall, and to put him against Tommy Fury right off the rip eliminates a good chunk of those. I feel moving forward instead of, like I said, making the most of Eddie's time and interest in fighting. And while we've got this great behemoth who is curious about combat, why use that for Tommy Fury, who I don't think is owed anything by anyone at Misfits Boxing or should be entitled to anything? I just don't really understand. But again, that's not my call, right? And
Well, that's your
you know,
opinion.
it's
That's your
that's
opinion.
my opinion. That's I guess if I was gonna really like pull the curtains back and be a little bit more vocal than I probably should be. I don't think that. Yeah, I mean, maybe this fight's for somebody, but this fight's not for me. I kind of would have loved to see Eddie take on someone else and then
Okay.
maybe take on a Tommy.
Well, I mean, Eddie Hall did win, a fight. I think was it last year by a knockout in in the first 10, 20 seconds or so of the first round.
He had an MMA victory over a KSW fighter,
Yeah.
which was insane,
It was
right?
because I don't think
Um,
anybody was expecting him to get that type of victory in that quickness either.
no, and unfortunately, I think the capacity for him to come out early in round one and swarm and overwhelm. Tommy is like infinitely smaller than his ability to swarm and overwhelm and use his strength in an MMA setting against a similarly aged opponent. Like it would again, it would be great, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see that lightning striking twice.
Well, we'll see what happens. We can't wait to see what you're going to be doing at that event in Manchester, UK. We look forward to that, and it's of course going to be on, I believe, the Zone. Is that right?
I think this one will be on the zone. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Make sure you have your DAZN subscriptions up to date to catch that big fight heading our way in the best city in the world, Manchester, UK. Uh,
And I'll say this: there's a couple other fights that I know are on that June 13th
yeah.
card that are compelling.
Yeah.
There's a few because for me, I think that Misfits has been so focused on Misfits Pro. Rightfully so. We've got a huge stable of excellent guys that are either embarking upon their pro careers or in the early stages of their journeys, or like Deontay Wilder's near the end of it. And that deserves the focus. But for the influencer boxing fans, for the people that love the crossover combat, I think the focus has been taken off a little bit from those guys. And, they've been chomping at the bit to get opportunities. And I know that June 13th features a girl who debuted, had a really excellent debut. And I've wanted to see her back because I think that she shakes up that division nicely. And she just messaged me the other day saying, "Oh, I'm on this card." And I was like, interesting, because that matchmaking to me says that there's going to be a bit more of a highlighting of the crossover and the YouTuber and the more you know off the wall type of people that we have on the roster on this card as well, which makes sense. I mean, it's Eddie Hall versus Tommy Fury. Why not flood it with some of our favorite influencers? But that's just a little sneak peek. There's a girl that is having her second Misfits fight that I've been dying to see her again.
Well, of course, you don't know what you're going to be doing at the event, so you may end up on commentary, for instance.
I hope like play-by-play commentary is obviously something I've stepped up and done many times in the last 2 years
Yeah.
for Misfits Boxing. And granted, there seems to be a lot of organizational and structural changes, both Misfits DAZN related. But it would be great to get back to doing what I love, right? So
Well, I
hopefully
mean, would you
June
bring your
13th.
full energy for the Tommy and Eddie Hall fight? Because of course he does MMA. Okay, you're not that keen on it. Happening
Yeah,
straight
of
away.
course.
But
Of course, you would get the best that I could possibly
okay,
offer for that fight, and we'd spin it up to be the greatest it can be.
okay, that's fine. We look forward to it. Be there, or you can be squared in Manchester. Speaking of other exciting bouts happening in 2026, of course, in Netflix in Los Angeles coming up at the Interim Dome in Los Angeles. I think that's the correct pronunciation. Wanda Rousey's comeback fight.
Yeah,
I
this
didn't
is an
expect that
interesting
to see
one.
on my bucket list in 2026 to see her back in the in an octagon of sorts.
It's interesting because she had a really good tenure with the WWE, and then that has seemingly fizzled out over the last year, 2 years.
Well,
And
and
so an MMA
she's been
return,
very critical about that as well, about her experiences in
right?
WWE, mostly at the old regime against the old boss. Mister,
Yeah,
you're fired. So of course, who's no longer around now? By the way, he's out. He's retired.
yeah. He's got his it's funny, Vince McMahon looks like a 1980s mob boss these days with the hair and
The mustache at
no,
one
but
point
for
as well. Yeah.
yeah, the mustache cape was crazy. Well, okay, listen, I mean, Ronda was very critical of MMA and UFC, and now she's back in the MMA sphere, so maybe a WWE return could be following this,
Possibly.
this comeback fight. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Like if you look at the pay-per-view sales from back in the day, Ronda was a huge star. Like her name was associated with top of the line events for mixed martial arts and specifically the UFC. And I think that it's interesting when Amanda Nunez took over as kind of like the best female in the sport and the big finisher, there was still like a 70% drop in pay-per-view sales and engagement from Ronda's peak to, Amanda's. And that's so significant to me, at least, because like Amanda Nunez is the greatest of all time and put on nothing but entertaining fights. And she still was 70% less of what Ronda Rousey was from a pay-per-view financial sense. So I don't know. I think it's gonna be a huge fight. It's gonna be the most watched MMA fight of all time, in my estimation, because of Netflix's platform. I think Ronda's gonna easily beat Gina. Like this will be a first round submission without question. As much as I think Gina Carano is great for taking the fight and is playing the part nicely, don't get it twisted. Ronda's an Olympic judoka, and still that's in her bones, man.
Yeah.
So, but it also provides a platform to some really unique emerging prospects on the undercard. I think that there's a few guys. Gosh, there's a French dude. I think his name's like Saldine Parnasse. I'm mispronouncing that. I'm butchering it. I apologize. But like, the fact that he's on a card like this shows that they're interested in putting on some talent, some emerging prospects. You've got, I think Lorenz Larkin is also on the card, which is some homage to someone that has like stamped their name in every chapter of combat sports. And it's indicative to me that whoever's matchmaking this does have a greater understanding of the MMA world, which is nice. And, does give me a good feeling that this isn't just a one-off.
I believe Nate Diaz is also fighting on that card as well.
Nate Diaz, Mike Perry, the kings of violence going at it. I don't know what to expect from that. I think Mike's going to beat the shit out of him. Truthfully, I mean, Nate Diaz had a very uninspired boxing bout against Jorge Masvidal. He had a very lackluster fight with Jake Paul, where he just showed up, got his ass kicked. I think Mike Perry is going to torch him and tear him apart. But good on Nate for continuing to monetize his brand and name and get another nice big paycheck. But Mike's a lunatic. Like Mike Perry is fucking insane, and I don't think that gets talked about enough. It gets talked about a lot. I just don't think it gets talked about enough because the guy is actually a lunatic, and I love that bone in his body for lunacy. But it makes him a problem for people at this stages of their careers who think they're just going to walk in and get a nice, easy fight. Like, no, he's going to try and kill you. Like, just because you guys are both older and out of your primes doesn't mean that he's not trying to kill you. So it's an interesting one. I think there's something for everybody on this Netflix card. I mean, we're a month out. I was thinking of applying for some press credentials and showing up and seeing what was what, but either way, I'll be tuning in for sure because
Oh, I'm sure
come
you
on,
will
that'll
be
be
tuning in. You might be over Twitter and it was like X as it's now
yeah.
known as, and you'd be tweeting about the ongoings and all sorts because you're doing that immediately after the Combat Global. You were on X talking about the
Yeah.
UFC going on and what was going on, and quickly as well. Gable Stevenson, disastrous career in the WWE, now a part of UFC. Do you think you have a
Mm.
better career maybe in the UFC?
I think so. I think wherever Gable landed within mixed martial arts, he was going to be fine. And now, obviously, he's got the coaching with John Jones, and so his development is going to, it's going to be done the right way. I think that what could have been maybe more lucrative would be doing this Netflix card, getting some big payday to be a part of it, getting all the eyeballs on him to be a part of it, and then negotiating with the UFC following that. But maybe there was some stipulation that, hey, if you go fight on that Netflix card will never have you at the UFC, which would obviously be a tremendous loss and disappointment because he is such a frightening prospect in the cage that if he wasn't in the UFC, it'd be tragic. But UFC plays hardball, man. They at this point in the company, they're convinced that they don't need some of that up and coming talent, even if it's a gold medalist like Gable. But either way, I mean, the reality that we're in, he's in the UFC. I'm sure he'll debut against the top 15 guy, and I bet he's going to beat the fuck out of him. I think Gable today could easily be a top 10 UFC heavyweight. And this isn't to knock recent debutant Tyrell Fortune, who's someone here in Phoenix who I think is a really solid talent, but he comes in, debuts, beats, I believe, Marcin Tybura. And I'm sorry, but Gable likely beats both Tyrell and Marcin at the moment, and he's only like 3-0 or 4-0. Imagine this guy gets more seasoning. I mean, it's exciting to think of him in the cage. I know that people have their opinions on him outside of it for what he's done in his past, and I'm certainly not speaking on any of it or offering a thought. I think that look, the world's fucked anyways. I'm just curious about people in the cage, right?
Okay, well, I will wrap this up in just a moment. I know it's gone over an hour now, and you gave me 6 minutes, so I apologise. But
Sorry, man.
a couple of questions for you. Firstly, of course, UFC. at the White House to celebrate the 250th year of your independence, obviously. Are you going to be watching? Are you going to be showing up to try and get? Because it's going to be free tickets apparently. Says Dana White. So are you going to be trying to get a seat
Yeah.
at the White House to watch the big event?
No, I'm not going to be in DC for it. I'm not really rushing to try and get a ticket for it. Because again, I think the viewing experience is going to be way better on my TV anyways.
Okay.
So why bother? I think the card itself is. I think I saw some reporting last week that either Bo Nickel or someone was out. Fights falling apart, and it's only like a 6 fight card, only like a six or 7 fight card. So you lose one, that's kind of a big loss. And I think that what they advertised, kind of like they did with UFC 300, kind of like they did with a couple other big events the last couple of years. They advertised such a monumental, once in a lifetime card, and this is not what it is, truthfully. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I am going to be watching it. I'm very curious about the main event. I think Ilya is going to beat Justin up quickly and quite brutally. I think Alex Pereira has a decent shot of beating Cyril Gahn. I think Gahn's a big dude. But Alex Pereira, he's also putting on a lot of size. And I think that his striking is going to be just a step better than Cyril's. I think Cyril can try and wrestle him, but I don't know. I have confidence that Alex Pereira can become the first three division champion because I think that would be quite good and kind of funny that this older kickboxer can come in and just fucking be the greatest, right? Um, yeah,
Yeah.
Sean O'Malley's on the card too. I mean, Sean O'Malley and Eamon Zahabi is a fight that I think is going under the radar, and Sean, of course, is going on his podcast and other podcasts talking about how it's not really that great of a fight. And I think that that's annoying a little because Sean has had some staggered results in the last couple of years, and Eamon Zahabi's on like a 7 fight win streak, and he's had good entertaining fights. His fight with Jose Aldo, really entertaining. The guy goes out there and gets after it, and he's earned the opportunity to fight you, Sean. He's beaten the ranked contenders to warrant this big opportunity. I'm sorry that you're not the champion anymore. I'm sorry that you can't be entitled to these types of specific main events or fights that have these other hooks and sinkers attached to it. But now it's time in your career to face a little bit down, show you can still beat those guys, and then for sure bounce back up. But I think that like for Sean to just continually talk down upon it and dismiss it, it hurts him as much as it hurts the fight and Eamon. And I don't think Eamon's a hobby deserves that, right? So it's a fight that I'm really curious about. And for Eamon Zahabi, like if Eamon beats Sean O'Malley, and then let's say Eamon goes and becomes a UFC champion, he's like 38 years old. He's not a young guy. He's not like a prospect, like he got knocked out, let's call it 4 or 5 years ago, and took a period of time off, and then has just come back and ripped off win after win after win. But because he's a very nice guy and more reserved, I think he's not attracting the fanfare that he should. But like, if you just look at the brass tacks of Eamon Zahabi's story, you would go, oh my God, how can I not be a fan of this fucking dude who is on a lightning, path to the top? Um, you know. But yeah, so that's my thought on the White House. There's fights I'm really jazzed about, there's fights I'm really interested in, but the event as it's a whole, yeah, it's a fight.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Once in a lifetime, I feel like this is going to be the right. I don't
Oh,
think it'll
yeah.
ever happen again in my lifetime. But yeah, it's going to be great either way. It's a shame you're going to be able to be there in person, as you say, be a better viewing experience from your house. So fair enough. Fair enough.
I like the commentate, man. I love John Anik's play-by-play, and
Yeah.
I think that that's what makes events for me. And going in person would be fun for the experience, but I haven't been to a UFC event since December of 2023, and I haven't felt like I have been missing out
Yeah.
and not attending events in person. So,
Fair
yeah.
enough. Fair enough. Conor McGregor making a comeback. Do you think that's going to actually happen? Because it's been hyped many times before the return to the UFC, and then always something comes out that he can't make the weight, or there's some kind of scandal comes out. So, do you think it will happen this time around?
Who knows? I It has to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Why not now? I think that the guy will fight again. I do. There's too much money on the table for the UFC and for Conor not to square it down. I just don't know who it's going to be because obviously, if Chandler's fighting, I think he's fighting Benoit Saint Denis at the White House in June.
Mm,
There, or no, he's fighting Mauricio Hufi, I believe.
mhm.
Um, there goes that fight, which to me was always like the perfect fight for Connor, a winnable opponent, someone who's going to fight stupid and be entertaining and build up the right way. I mean, shit, you did a whole season of The Ultimate Fighter with this guy, and we're not going to see that paid off ever. So I don't know who you put against Connor that would warrant it. That's the sticking point for me. Like maybe you get Nate Diaz after Mike Perry kills him, and you do the trilogy, I suppose. Um, but it's intriguing, it's compelling. But I do think he'll fight this year. But then
Okay.
I'll probably be wrong, and
Well,
then
we'll
you'll come
find
back in
out.
2027. Yeah.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Two more questions. I'll let you go. One question. BKB. Great organization. They're doing phenomenal things. I know you follow them. They follow you, I believe. Will we ever see you part of their broadcast in the future, or has there been talks of you maybe joining their broadcasts previously?
Yeah, there's been conversations over the years with myself and BKB, specifically one of their executives, Don Povia, who's a
Yeah,
fantastic guy.
I know who
And
he
I,
is.
you know, Don, yeah,
I'm in
Don's the
contact with
man.
Don. Yeah, good old. He's a very cool guy. I probably messaged him a bit too much as well, probably.
Yeah, you got to work on that, Ed. You got to tone it down
Uh,
and reduce it. But
I
no,
think
Don,
I think if you
Don
didn't
and
have me
I
doing that, I think you would miss my presence.
maybe that's fair. We'll have to test it and find out. Um,
Hopefully,
but
not for many more decades
I
to come, obviously. Yeah.
no, I think Don and I, we've always had a really good relationship, and they brought me out for one event years ago, and I love the concept. I love Big Mo as
Mm.
an announcer. I think that Cody Momarts is, man, I can't say enough good things about him
Hall
and
of
his
Fame, yeah.
style.
He's in the BKB
Hall
Hall
of
of Fame.
Fame and BKB, yeah. And I think that it's tough for me to envision a space in their broadcast because they've got obviously Mike Goldberg doing play-by-play, and I don't see them switching that up. And I don't think that they put me in a sideline reporting role or anything in that realm. If they had something where it was like desk analysts and they needed a host for the desk, then I think that role could be a pretty logical one for me to come in and play for them. But as it stands, it just doesn't feel like there's opportunity from them, which is a shame. I mean, they do a lot of events in California, which is right next door, and the opportunity to work with Goldberg and learn a little bit more from him would be excellent. But yeah, as it stands, I'm a fan. I'm wishing them always the best, and hope that they continue to keep climbing and putting on events. But I don't know if I see myself working with them in the future or near future. And that's out of not any lack of interest from me, just more just situations how it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing for you is that they actually are coming to Manchester. Of course, they've been to Greater Manchester, Bolton, but they're actually coming to the main stage, the AO Arena in Manchester, the same place where you would be for the Tommy and Eddie Hall fight.
Gonna say.
So they are coming to the best venue in Manchester for the first time ever. It's going to be great in May the 16th. Be there, be squared. It's going to be a phenomenal night. History will be made for both the BKB and all the fighters being able to fight in that historic arena as well. My last
It's gonna
question.
be
We're gone.
so it's gonna be tough. May 16th. I mean, that's the Netflix card. So you're gonna be double duty doing BKB in Manchester, and then you've got the the Netflix card on your phone.
Well, I mean, depending what time it starts, the Netflix card, most of us might be back home by then. It'd be very late, but
That's
yeah,
true. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fair.
yeah. Well, yeah, but it'd
We
be
got
great.
time
It'd
zones.
be a great night. Either way, Don will be in Manchester. I'm trying to meet up with him, so that'd be great. Because I've been in contact with Don for about 5 years now. Because I first got in contact with him, just for background information, with Otto Wallen. That's how this whole
Yeah.
crazy bare knuckle world began on this channel because of Don. I got in contact with Don about Otto. He came on the show. Great, and then I was getting loads of emails then after that about bare knuckle fighting I knew nothing about, and it wasn't really something I was very keen to get involved in because it's very brutal. more brutal than the MMA. But I thought, after a while, I just gave in. I thought, okay, well, let's just see what happens, and it's been quite fun actually. And again, a lot of celebrities have come in, and a lot of great announcers and legendary goats as well in the world of sports broadcasting have joined them as well. So it's been phenomenal just to have a little part of that.
Hey, Don does a good job of the PR and making sure that he gets the VIPs out to do the rounds.
Yeah,
So
no, he's
credit
a
to
great
Don.
guy. I don't know why he thinks I'm a good fit for it. I've no idea, but I deal with him. My last question to you for this evening is, who would you suggest to come on the show next? As well, is there anything else you would like to mention, which I've not thought of, which you think is very important to get off your chest?
Ooh. I think a person that would be great for the Ed Fowler show is, I think if you reached out to Warren Spencer or Tristan Ham, obviously they just had some big victories over the weekend. I think chatting about that and learning about their returns. Obviously, Warren just fought Tony Ferguson, a huge fight in December. Tristan, just had a big loss in December. He got knocked out in the first round by a guy, and the journey for Tristan to come back from that and get his own knockout over the weekend. And he's a guy that continues to try and chip away at this influencer world is Tristan Ham, and he's got the body for it. He's got the attitude for it. Same with Warren. So I think those two people would be good for you.
Well, thank you very much, Ben. Much appreciated for those suggestions. I promise to get in contact with them, as you know. It's been great having you back on the show. Hopefully, it won't be another 3 years before we see your presence back on this channel again. I even wore black. You're always in black, so I thought I'd wear a black shirt for you.
There you go. You matched it. You matched it, man. Smart call.
Yeah.
Smart call.
Yeah. Because last time you came on the show, you wore your usual, attire, which you wear for your
I wore the blazer and the turtleneck.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. So I'm glad you changed it up a bit for this appearance on the show.
Like I said, man, as the years have gone by, I've mellowed out significantly, and I don't need to be in character as much.
Fair enough. Well, we do appreciate you. Of course, you can find, my guest on social media. Feel free to let my viewers as listeners know where they can find you on social media, by the way.
Yeah, at Ben the Bane Davis on all platforms. I'm most active on Twitter, but Instagram's more of a just variety what I'm up to. And hit me up on LinkedIn, Benjamin Lee Davis on LinkedIn. Don't forget to connect with me there.
There we go. Connect with him on LinkedIn today. Why not? But yeah, we can't wait to have you back on the show, and we can't wait for you to be back in Manchester, England for that big fight heading our way. Have fun, and I'm hoping it's a lit night for you, as they say on the streets. If you enjoyed the episode, Barry, make sure you smash the like button, share the video around, leave a comment for any future questions you may have for Ben, or anything else you may want me to discuss in the future. If you want to see more of my fantastic conversations, including this one here, then check them out, and make sure to smash that subscribe button. We've got over 392 subscribers. We're getting towards our 400 subscriber goal. Hope you can help me to get to 400 subscribers today. And back to you, Ben, by the way. I've tagged you in this description of my video, so when you go back onto your YouTube account, because I've seen you're a bit disactive on there recently. You've not posted in there about 2 months, I believe. So hopefully we'll see some new content coming from you soon. But you may get a notification saying that I've tagged you in this video. And also as well, a new feature on YouTube is I can now collaborate with different people. So I can collaborate with this video with yourself, and this video can appear on your YouTube channel to all of your subscribers as well, if you'd be interested in that link.
I think my channel's a little bit too inactive. I think I'd hurt you more than I'd help you by collabing upon it, but possibly.
Okay. Well, I will also be sharing clips of this conversation on my social media. So I will tag you in, and it's up to you if you decide to reshare or not, because I feel you're very busy at the moment to reshare much things, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, like I said, the plate's packed, my brother.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, we look forward to it. Make sure you share this around, and I will see you all next week, I believe, for another episode of the show. Find out who it will be on my social media. Until then, enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening.